Welcome, everybody, to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The CFL Weekly Pick'em Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. To get up to a 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit, make sure you get a BetNow.eu and use the promo code TRUTH100. I am your host for the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, a man who needs no introduction, the entire civilized world, Brian Schmidt.
That was a better introduction than last week. That was good.
That's what I was shooting for. All right, and next up, a man who needs no introduction in Canada, four-time Grey Cup champion, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
Pretty good. No complaints. The weather here is holding out. So, and for Syracuse, you know what I mean if I said that. So it's a good thing.
I think every place all three of us are is crappy. That's why we do this show all the time once a week, because there's nothing else to do. You can't go outside. But the CFL's longest championship drought is over as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, led by Andrew Harris, who scored 2 touchdowns, and Justin Medlock 6 field goals, leads the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to a 33-12 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the 107th Grey Cup. Robert, it doesn't surprise me that Winnipeg won, but 33-12 does.
You're exactly 100% correct. And I'm not surprised at the fact that Winnipeg, had a brilliant performance by Andrew Harris, and which I've said all year long. If you really want to take the effort and if that's where I can use, or the heart of a team and play him, run the ball on him. If you can run the ball down the team's throat, not only do you take the lead, control the clock, and control the minimum of the game, you just demoralize the team because it's easy to pass on him. It's very difficult for a line to line up, offensive line or offensive lineup and just run down a team's throat. To be able to do that, and trust me, I played running back long enough in my career, many times in the CFL, and in the Grey Cup before. To run the ball on the ground just says a lot about what your attitude is, because it takes those big guys up front, pushing guys out of the way. It takes coordination with wide receivers blocking downfield. It takes the attitude of a quarterback who's not going to sit there and be selfish and want to throw for a lot of yards to be the MVP, to be able to sit there and have a running back run for as many yards as he did and do what he did. What a great player. Well, what a great game to watch.
Yeah, and Brian, we always talk about it. You win the games up front. They won it up front by being able to run the ball like that. And defensively, defensive end Willie Jefferson had 3 of the Bombers' 6 sacks on Ticats quarterback Dane Evans, forcing 2 fumbles as part of a 7-turnover night for the Winnipeg defense. And we've talked all year about Hamilton's defense, Winnipeg's defense. Winnipeg's was just better on this night.
Yeah, that's the exact point. I mean, we talked about it last week. What defense was going to play better, and Winnipeg clearly played better on this night. Not only up front defensively, but they control the line of scrimmage in the running game. And when you do those things, you're going to win, 95% of the time. And they just did a great job on both sides of the ball, really controlling the line of scrimmage, getting pressure, and being able to run the football.
Yeah, and the Bombers' starting quarterback, Zach Collaros, didn't play great, but he had a clean game, 17-23 for 170 yards. And then Chris Trevler comes in, completes all 3 of his passing attempts for 39 yards and a touchdown. And what looked like to be the thing that was going to stop a great Winnipeg Blue Bomber season, which was inefficiency at the quarterback position towards the last half of the season, was Zach Collaros added, Chris Trevler playing well, Robert. I mean, it ended up being a strength.
I mean, it did. What a great luxury, for Winnipeg to be able to have those 2 quarterbacks, healthy at the right time, and just not even just on the field, just in the locker room, especially with Zach, or Collaros, I'd say, calling him his very first name. It just it's just someone that calms you, someone that knows that's been there before, someone that understands that it's much bigger than just, a season. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And Winnipeg proved it. You look at Hamilton. Hamilton on paper was the best team all year long, playing great all year long. But when it counts, you got to be able to go out there and perform and play your best. It's a reason why some guys only have one, two, the two Grey Cups, because it's hard to get back. As I said before, I mean, many a time I played in 5 Grey Cups. Been fortunate enough to play in 5 Grey Cups. There are some guys who have played, 9, 10, 11, 12 years, who only played one, or if that, none. So it's a privilege, it's an honor to be able to get yourself in that position to be able to do that. My hat's off to them. For the veterans who have been there before, they understand what it takes. For the rookies who've experienced that first loss, because remember, my first loss in the Grey Cup was in Baltimore in 1994 to the BC Lions, who kicked the field goal, no time left to beat us. It had stung for a long time. And I told myself, it's like, you know what? Next time I get back there, it's not going to be the same. I'm going to turn it up. And, for those guys to be able to go out there and do what they did and accomplish what they did, I give them a lot of credit. My hat's off to Winnipeg, because what a great year they had. Because Hamilton on paper was a more dominant team.
Yeah,
but that's why the games are played.
When we look at this, Dane Evans played unbelievable all year. I think by the halfway point of the season, we stopped calling him a backup quarterback. But in this game, I think the inexperience showed, Robert.
Ding dong, 100% correct. And I had said that, and I say that all the time. As someone who just has a lot of experience in games that are meaningful games, as opposed to a regular season game is, it's a regular season game. Take it or leave it. You can have the heart, the desire to win, or you cannot. It is what it is. The Grey Cup is something entirely different. It's a championship for everything that you've ever worked for to try to accomplish in that year for that team. So that there's so much more meaning. You're so afraid to make a mistake. Why? Because you're just not on local television and maybe seen nationally, here and there, just on the news, but you're seen, nationally by the entire audience during the time of this game. So it's amplified that much more. So it puts that much more pressure on you. And I just thought, Collaros, and even with Strevler, just being a younger guy learning from Collaros, when they signed him, I said, wow, what a great opportunity they have. But in the back of my mind, I always thought that Hamilton was the better team, just playing more, dominant football all year. But it just goes to show you, and it makes. And I got into not an argument, a discussion with a group of people who I talked to online about some of the greatest CFL teams that ever played, in the history of CFL. And some of them kept saying that, they thought it was the Baltimore team from 1995 or the Toronto team from 1997. And, and I just, a lot of times I just listen, listen to fans, just listen to people just talking, trying to understand the game. Again, I try to take it from a psychological view. And I said to myself, the reason my Baltimore team was great is because we had a great running game, and, we just had athletes like galore. We had an all-American team. But I said, it's like, don't take away from the fact that I think Canadian athletes are amazing athletes. I was able to play with the likes of Paul Mazzotti, the likes of a Mike Morreale, the likes of a Tyrone Jones, Pierre Bercheval. I can go on and on and on about the Canadian guys I play with. And they always told me, Robert, it's about the depth that you can have. You can have your great Canadians, but the depth's not there. But I was like, no, you can't judge a guy's heart. So in playing with those games, and honestly, if those two teams went up against one another, I honestly think that the 1997 Toronto Argonauts team is one of the greatest teams ever played this game, for the simple fact that we not only did we have depth, we had heart, we had the will to understand that we were a talented team, we were a top tier team, but we knew how to win. It's Hamilton. And hear me when I say this. I think Hamilton is a better team. Hamilton is a better team, but Winnipeg won that game. Hamilton, going into the future, going into the next year, has to understand and realize that, as much talent as you have to understand how to win games, how to close the games out, especially championship games. Don't forget, they were the dominant team the entire year. but they lost that game pretty big and pretty bad.
Yeah, and
So that's what makes football so interesting and so much fun, and that's why I love to watch it, and that's why I love the game.
yeah, and Banks going out early in that game, or at least in the
Yeah,
second half
yeah.
early, didn't help matters, Brian.
No, it did not.
No, it didn't. And to go back to Evans real fast, we talked about last week. I mean, as great as he's played, what's going to happen? Which quarterback is going to play the best in the brightest lights? And we clearly saw that. But obviously, Banks going out didn't help. And they just struggled all night with Winnipeg. What Winnipeg was doing defensively, they struggled with being able to get any kind of key stops defensively. Winnipeg was able to run the ball, control the game, and when you do that, you're going to win. Now, I mean, that's the whole thing. On paper, Hamilton was the better team, and if we played this game next Sunday, I mean, Hamilton very well probably win the game, but
They would.
it's a one. When I've always said this about playoff football and championship football, it's a one-game shot. Once you're there, once you're in the playoffs, you've got a shot. No matter what's happened in the regular season, you have a shot. Because it's all about who gets hot at the right time, who cools off. And we've seen that, and this is a great example of that. Winnipeg on this night was a better football team. Were they a better football team on paper? No. But on this night, they played well. Hamilton did not, and here you go.
So, Robert, in that discussion, what team did most people consider the greatest team in CFL history?
It's interesting because it's a group from some people who are 70, 80, 80 and a 91-year-old, to the newer generation, from teenagers to young adolescents. And a lot of people sit here and say it's like the 80 Edmonton Eskimos were the most dominant organization ever in CFL history. I was like, I have no problem with that, and I told them I completely agree. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, what was it? 5 straight Grey Cups with Warren Moon?
Yeah. But you said, but that was such a different era. They didn't have to deal with free agency. They didn't have to deal with large scale contracts. You had guys who wanted to be on the team, that had small contracts all in all, so they stayed with the team together. And I look up and down on some of these teams that are playing, from the eras I played, and I look up and down on the roster that we had in Baltimore, and I'm shocked from the simple fact that we had nothing but pure athletes on that Baltimore team. Yes, we're still learning and trying to understand how to play the Canadian Football League game, but athletically, I've never been on a team in the CFL that was more talented. I mean, from Chris Wright, our punt returner, CFL All-Star, run the Rookie of the Year, to Tracy Ham, our Hall of Fame quarterback, to Mike Pringle, our Hall of Fame, our Hall of Fame running back, to Alfred Swag Payton in the Hall of Fame, up and down the lineup we had on the team was crazy. But then I take a step back and I say to myself, I say, okay, Robert, look at your Toronto team. What made them different? And the one factor that I have that I can expose or I can say to anybody else that nobody has is that I played for both teams. So I understand the nuances of what went on inside of both teams and what made us good, and and what was our Achilles heel or what was our kryptonite. Look at the Toronto team: Mike Clemens, Daryl Mookie Mitchell, Doug Flutie, all in the Hall of Fame. Paul Mazzotti, myself, Mike O'Shea. I can go on and on about the players listed in the 1997 Toronto championship team too that scored more. Second highest scoring team ever in the history of the CFL. That offense was something special, but the defense was probably better. So I look at these two teams and I was like, my God, if I could somehow, some way be smart enough, which I am not, to be able to put on a computer simulation, 95 Baltimore, Baltimore CFLers, against the 1997, Toronto Argonauts team, and see who would win that game. I can honestly say I don't know who would win, but in my heart, I would know who would win and why. And I'd say the 97 team would win because we are so much more balanced. The simple fact that me and Mike Clemens as a running back tandem, I think we're way more talented than me and Mike Pringle as a running back tandem because I felt I was underused, and not in a bad way, in Baltimore. As again, I said, because we were new. We didn't understand. But Don Matthews, and that's the difference, Don Matthews just one of the greatest coaches to ever play, just understood how to get the best talent out of his players. So right now I'm telling Hamilton, find out who you are as a team. Go out there and understand and learn what it is it takes to win championships, not just to get to the championship, because that means nothing. They had a great year. They had a great run, blah, 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 whatever. What does it mean? It means nothing because right now I tell you those guys are reeling. It's tough. To be so dominant all year long, then to go out there and lose a game like that, it's tough, especially just get dominant, just to be good. It just lets you know you're not as good as you think you are. Figure out who you are, figure out what it takes to need to get the job done, get better, and go out there and win games. But another thing I want to say also on your show, or on our show, I just say is congrats to Andrew Harris.
Yeah,
it's
great
for me to see, unbelievable. I had a respect for him before, but I've gained so much more respect for him after watching this game, and just for him just going out there and just just what he had to deal with, being suspended for 2 games, for the charges or drug charges that he had, during the beginning of the year, failing drug tests and and be able to go out there and win the MVP of that, win the MVP of the league, win all Canadian and just put all that behind him and, just make a name for himself and just make a statement. My hat's off to him. I've gained so much more respect for that young man, and I think the world of him, and I hope the best is yet to come for him.
All right. The thing I remember about your 95 team is you guys lost 3 games, and 2 of those losses, if I remember right, came on like a 4-game road trip where you had to play like 3 games in 10 days.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do before in my life. I mean, if you've never understood what it takes to play in a professional football game, it takes your body. Think about this. It takes your bodies 3 days to recover just from the bruises, just from the pounding, just from the exhaustion of playing a game. It takes at least 3 days to recover. Then it takes another 1 day just to, just to get your body, just back to where that 5th day to where you're like, okay, I'm normal now I can start to train again. And to play that many games, in a short period of time. I remember doing it one time in Toronto also, where it's just like, this is ridiculous. This is not football. Football is a gladiator sport. It's not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. Imagine running your body into a garage door. Think about this. Go outside and run your body into a garage door right now.
Do that right now, Schmidt, so we can get a report right after you do it.
60, 70, 80 times as hard as you can with no padding on. And tell me how you feel the next day.
Well,
that's what it is. So it's the roughest spot you could ever possibly do to be able to do something like that. And I give those guys a lot of credit for being able to do that because I understand it. That's the one thing in football that I can always undo. I can always do. I may sit here and say a lot about the game because I understand it, but it's like, again, I understand it. I've lived it. I've done it before, so I get it. You may not win game Hamilton, as I said. Hamilton's a very, very, very good team. The most dominant team all year, but they didn't win it. The same thing we did with Baltimore in 1994. We had a dominant team all year long. The week before, think about this. The week before, all right, BC beat us in the Grey Cup by a last-second field goal. Yeah, it's well and good. That's the only Grey Cup I've ever lost. But 4 weeks before, we played them in a regular season game in Baltimore. We beat them 48-7. We destroyed them. We dominated them. But yet they beat us in the Grey Cup. It's about being the best team at the right time, understanding your players, and being able to go out there and execute, and understanding a winning attitude. They were I won't say dynasty, but they were a CFL team that understood the game of the Canadian Football League. We were newbies who were just very, very good and didn't understand. We learned fast. Came back and won the next year. So Hamilton, if the players are listening now, if any fans from Hamilton are listening now, it's like, don't get down or don't get sad about your team. Just understand that they can get better. They're a very dominant team. They have the core components, and hopefully those guys can come back. But unfortunately, and you guys know this is the year of the free agent and guys just leaving the boat for the money and doing things that help themselves. So I don't think they'll see the same team in Hamilton next year, but what a great run.
Yeah, and another guy for Hamilton who played really well, Brian, was Terrell Sutton. 11 carries, 86 yards. Both teams ran the ball well.
Yeah, they really did. It just really came down to the pressure at times that Winnipeg was able to get on a key time, the fumbles, things like that. But again, it really comes down to as Winnipeg played just so well Sunday night, and just made they made the right plays at the right time, and now for Hamilton, unfortunately, you're going to look back at the season, and on one hand it was successful, on the other hand you didn't get the prize at the end that you've worked so hard for, and that's always a tough spot. But I think both of these teams are going to have interesting off seasons to build upon and try to continue the momentum that they have, especially Hamilton. Hamilton was a team that really, the momentum that they built is something that they've got to really try to continue, because this was just a very good football team all year long.
Yeah. A little bit of news, CFL-wise, was the Toronto Argonauts granted James Wilder Jr. his release after 3 years. Robert, what's your take on this, and where do you think he goes from here?
Well, unfortunately, it's a business.
Well, he requested the release.
It is. Yeah, I know he did. I can't try and begin to think what's going on in the young man's head. Maybe he thinks he wants to, he wants to challenge the NFL and needs to be released for that. Maybe he thinks that he needs to change the venue. It's his decision. So I don't know. I could call Mike Pinball Clemens, because I'm very good close with him and find out. But I would never do anything like that. The dishonor, the respect that I have for being able to get information like that. That's just not who I am. But at the end of the day, he has to do what's best for him, and the organization has to do what's best for them. And I respect both parties, and I respect the fact that they have the time, and the knowledge to be able to do what's best for each. So that's a tough one, because he's actually, as an Argonaut, one of my favorite players to watch. I think he went through a lot the entire years, and as I say, as you struggle, you find out a lot about yourself. You won't find out a lot about it yourself if things are going well all the time, because it's going well all the time. So you don't get a chance to think, you don't get a chance to ponder. But let things go sideways, let things go bad for a while, and you'll realize a lot about yourself and realize what it takes to get better. So I don't know what's going on in the young man's head, but I wish him best. I wish him well. I hope he's in Toronto next year to be able to go out there and compete for another shot at the Grey Cup, but who knows?
All right, the Montreal Alouettes announced Tuesday, that's today, that Kahari Jones had signed a new deal with the organization and will remain the team's head coach for at least the next 3 seasons. He will also continue to act as the offensive coordinator. This is a team that hadn't made the playoffs since 2014, Brian, and he's also their quarterback's coach, and I think he deserves a lot of the credit for the way Vernon Adams Jr.'s game has evolved.
100%. And deserving of the deal that he got. When you haven't been to the playoffs since 2014, look, we on this show early in the season, Montreal was the bottom of the barrel, and then all of a sudden, they got a win, and oh, hey, they got a lucky win. Look at that. Then they got another win. Oh, I had a lucky win, and then they got another win. All of a sudden, we started taking notice, and they just took off, and so now this is a great opportunity. You've signed him back for 3 years to continue that development, not only of Adams but of this team as a whole, because this was a good team as the season went on, and yes, as Vernon Adams went, they went, but you can see now you've got something to build upon. So a few free agent moves. Now all of a sudden you can take this team, and maybe this team can be the Hamilton of this year, next year, with a few key moves.
Yeah, because I think in the offseason, Robert, if they make the right moves, they're going to be one of the favorites headed into next season.
Montreal is a dangerous team. As I said before, free agency has changed the game so much. It really has. Guys just don't stay packed. I mean, and it's not just with Montreal. It's with any team. How good will Hamilton be? The simple fact that some of their key free agents, lead the team. And I say that from the simple fact that, again, I lived it through experience. If that Toronto team from 94 and 95 stays, if that Baltimore team from 94 and 95 stays together and somehow the CFL stays in Baltimore, we're a dynasty. If that Toronto team from 96 and 97 stays together, we're an absolute dynasty. We're beating teams by Toronto. We're beating teams by an average from all of our wins. We're beating teams by an average of almost 28 points. We're destroying teams. And if we stay together, it was free agency. Guys decided to go either try out for the NFL or sign with another team or money here or different. I mean, it just doesn't happen. That's why I always say I give a lot of respect to the War Moon era and those teams from the 80s that won 5 Grey Cups in a row. Because they had loyalty and they stayed together. But the game has changed, and again, the game's always keep changing. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kahari Jones, and I played with Kahari in BC, and I always had respect for Kahari, being a backup quarterback, to Damon Allen and Danny Barrett, and just how he approached the game and how he's a student of the game and how he learned what was going on and he understood. And not only did he just help me, who was a senior, but he helped other players and just understanding what was going on. I appreciated it, so I'm not surprised he's doing well. But I hope the guys stay with him and believe in him, and he's able to go out there, at least for a dynasty nowadays, is only for about 2 or 3 years tops, 4 years tops.
Yeah.
A dynasty in the CFL, because of free agency and the way the game's played now, and just contracts and things of that nature. The dynasty's not going to let you'll never see a 5-game win streak for a CFL team ever again. The game's changed way too much.
Yeah. And really, the NFL's the same way. You got about a 3 or 4 year window, and that's it. Unless you're the New England Patriots.
Yeah, but okay, they're a dominant team, but look at the turnover they have their players.
Oh, that's what makes them so special that they can do that, though, because they're turning over a third of their roster every year, and they're still there.
That's what I try to tell people all the time. It's like, what the Patriots are doing with the same players every year. The turnover there is crazy. So it's like, so who do they give a testament to? Bill Belichick for being such a genius coach and understanding his system and running his system to defeat other people. And Tom Brady. I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I can't stand Tom Brady, but I respect the fact that he's an amazing quarterback. Joe Montana is my all-time favorite quarterback, but Tom Brady, he's always an argument in my head of being the greatest ever because he just gets it done with no matter who you put in front of him. You get Tom Brady, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, whoever he'll be great. You give Tom Brady, the worst wide receivers in the NFL, and he's still a great quarterback. So people just want to be mad at him because he's a winner, but he's just a winner. You may not like him. You may think he's brash and ass, snobbish, got a gorgeous drop-dead wife,
That bastard. You're making me pissed right now, and I actually like Tom Brady.
You can find reasons to hate him, but he's a winner.
Oh, I like him because he's a winner. And the thing is this. To me, him and Joe Montana are the two best ever, and people don't realize Joe Montana, when he won that first Super Bowl in 1981, when they beat the Bengals, their leading rusher that year was Earl Cooper, who ran for like 500 yards. And there was no Jerry Rice. There was no Roger Craig. And,
No.
he took a 49ers team that probably wasn't as talented as the Cowboys that have beaten a championship game or the Bengals in the Super Bowl and won both of those games.
And that, and honestly, that's what drives me crazy. I mean, I'll sit here and being a football aficionado, which I can call myself, so don't take it the wrong way.
Hey, it's our show. You can call yourself whatever you want.
I listen to people talk about the Cowboys, and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's like Troy Aikman had, he had Nate Newton, he had Emmitt Smith, he had Dallas Clark, Michael Irvin. I mean, he had Hall of Famers on his squad, so of course he was going to do well. Are you kidding me? I could have played well in one of that team and been a superstar on that team. They were loaded. It's easy to win when you have a loaded team. When the Herschel Walker trade allowed them to get God knows what's in draft picks and guys who are good and be able to be a good team. It's like, what are they doing now? They haven't figured it out now. The end result may be what the Cowboys did, but the outline is what the Patriots are doing. I'd rather be the Patriots than the Cowboys in the championships any day, because the Patriots understood what it takes to win. The Cowboys just understood what it took to win for now, and they haven't figured it out. That's why they haven't been back to doing anything in '96. That's why I give since '96. That's why I give a lot of credit to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Hats off to Mike O'Shea, my boy who I actually played with, in Toronto, and won 2 Grey Cups with. You know what? He took a team. I won't say misfits, but a team of guys who are very, very talented, to understood that they may not be the most dominant team, but they know how to win. Now build upon that. You always got to build upon what it takes to get to the next level, or get to by the next level, I mean championship. It's going to be interesting to see who goes into to the 2020 season. Wow, I'm getting old.
All right.
2020 season. Go ahead.
All right, Brian. We're going to go ahead. We got to wrap it up because we got that NFL show to do at 10 o'clock tonight. But, we got to watch the Bengals Steelers this week, and compared to the Grey Cup, I think Canadian football was better for us this week, Schmidt.
Yeah. I mean, the Pittsburgh game, the outcome was more favorable for me than it was for you. But yeah,
no, it wasn't. I want Joe Burrow or I want Chase Young. So I need the Bengals to lose. So I was fine with the Steelers winning.
Yeah, it was. Really the only NFL I've really watched this year is usually the Steelers, and that game was rough to watch. But it's what I've said since with Pittsburgh, with all these injuries, is they've got to rely on their defense, and they've got to win ugly, and they've done that. And I will say this: I have I've at times I've been very hard on Mike Tomlin, but I'll say this: is by far his best coaching job he's ever.
They're probably ended up 6-10 either way, though.
No,
come on, Devlin Hodges. Devlin Hodges couldn't make a CFL team.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. You got to give Duck a little bit of credit, because every time he comes out there, they do something.
He was 5 for 11 against the Bengals, Schmitty. I wouldn't hold out a lot of hope there.
Did he? He was 17-24 in San Diego.
Devlin Hodges sounds like something me and Robert are going to eat on Thanksgiving.
I was going to say, why are you guys arguing? Just give Baltimore the championship right now and be gone.
Well, the AFC North, yeah, but the interesting thing there is I want to see New England and Baltimore in a championship game, because I know this, with New England, they got Bill Belichick, and if anybody can figure it out, it'll be him, because the two best offenses I've ever seen were probably that 90 Bills team and that Greatest Show on Turf Rams team, and Belichick stopped them both.
That's sort of what we've been talking about the entire night. It doesn't matter how great you are during the – remember, Baltimore right now is Hamilton during the CFL. They mowed through everything, mowed through everybody, found a way to beat everybody. But when it came time, for the big game, all of a sudden, we always say it as players. You can be as good as you want to be when no one's watching, But when the lights are on, when it counts the most, when when the champion's involved, all of a sudden, it becomes. If you make one mistake, the entire country sees it. Right now, and during the CFL championship game, every mistake that Hamilton made, it was amplified, and they saw it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the NFL this year with Baltimore. Yeah. They're doing great right now, but
the other thing is this: Lamar Jackson's never played on a stage like that. I'm sure he'll be fine. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Dane Evans in the future will be fine, but that first time could be rough.
Hey, I lost my first game and learned from it. Won my next 4. That first one leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and I wasn't ready for it. I mean, I had no. I'd say it to everybody. Honestly, and I tell you guys this. I've told very few people this. But my first Grey Cup, I really don't remember it. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was a championship of the CFL, but it's not that it wasn't meaningful. I just didn't understand it. So I was like, I didn't know how big it was until after we lost, and then I realized talking to people, things of that nature, as an American kid. Wow, oh my God, this was a championship of the CFL. This is a Super Bowl, and I lost, and it made me feel so bad. And I was like, you know what? Never again. As you said, Dane Evans understands that now. Now he realizes how important this game is, the love of the fans. And, and you see CFL, the Grey Cup was one of the greatest time I've ever had in my life, all 5 of those games, and you learn from it. So he's going to be much better from it going forward. It's going to be interesting to see with that young man. Bigger things are going to happen now, for individuals like that. Honestly, just watch. I'm telling you, just watch.
All right, guys. Schmidt, any final words before we wrap up another CFL season?
It was a great season, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next year.
I don't think you'll see us, but you can hear us. I don't know. We may be able to because we are close to being able to do everything on video if everybody wants to. But I know me and Robert have faces for TV. I'm not sure about Schmidt, though.
Hey, I spent my whole off season my whole season last year on TV doing a coach's show for a half hour, and people loved me. So.
Okay. Yeah, but that was not worldwide like this. But all right, so everybody loves Schmidt too. So maybe we'll do it that way next year. Robert, any closing comments?
As I said before, hats off to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for going out there and persevering through an up and down season, going through all the things they had to go through with, and to win the Grey Cup and win it in dominant fashion like they did. And again, more hats off to Andrew Harris, just being able to go out there and just be a consummate pro. It's all about being a pro, no matter what he battled, whether he did do what he did or he didn't, it doesn't matter to me. He goes out there and proves himself each and every single day, and he went out there, he won the Canadian MVP, won the league MVP, won the Grey Cup MVP, and he just proved his doubters, the type of person, the caliber he is, and as a fellow running back, my hats off to him. I hope one day he's in the CFL Hall of Fame and he gets his just deserved, because as a Canadian player who really get, excuse my language, shit on in that league, I give him a lot of credit and I have a lot of respect for him.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap the show up. I want to thank everybody that listened to us again this year. We'll be back in about 6 or 7 months with the 2020 season. But for now, for Robert Drummond, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.